Hi guys, I'm here about to show you the first time you need to connect to your machine. I got some simple procedures, some tips on how to set it up and calibrate it for the first time. So, let's say you got all your wiring done. You just opened up your sender, whether or not it's G-code, universal G-code sender or PIC sender, doesn't matter, and you connect to it. That's the state that we're gonna say we're in. Now I know this is not the CNC for Newbie machine. The CNC for Newbie machine is over here, and it is used primarily as a tester for the new controllers. As I build them, I test each one before it goes out. Okay, so just pretend this is your CNC machine, your CNC for Newbie. It doesn't really matter what it is. All CNC machines operate on the same basic principles of stepper motors, a drive system. Mine is belts here. The CNC for Newbie machine is screw drives. Doesn't matter one bit. The only thing that matters is the calibration and the overall settings. But the machine itself will operate the same way. So let's pretend we just connected to the Demon controller and the CNC for Newbie machine for the first time. The first thing you're going to want to do, and hopefully you had your machine, if not, I'm sure you can turn off the power and turn the screws by hand if you can, or at least the x-axis. But what you want to do is you want to be a little bit away from any of the ends of the axes. So start at that point, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to put our movement. Another thing too. Make sure your homing is off for the first time. If it turns on for the first time, and it goes into, instead of where it says active here, instead of active idle, it'll have alarm and it'll be red. Okay, that means you have homing active. It's looking for you to home to unlock the machine. Okay, what I want you to do, and you can check that by the first time it comes up, you'll see this. And what you do is you look for $22. If it says a 1 there, that means you have homing activated. What I want you to do for the first time is turn off homing. Okay, so we're just going to pretend that homing is off on mine. I already homed my machine, everything's all set up, but for all intents and purposes we're just going to pretend like this is off. Okay, what that'll enable you to do is to move the machine around, positive, negative, to the machine. You can violate your machine positions, does not matter, and you will not throw any alarms. Okay, so what we do first is we go to the X and Y movements, and we'll start with something really small. Okay, and we'll go and we'll just jog it to the right, jog it to the left. Okay, front and back. Now the movements, if the movements are very small and you really can't tell which way they're going, that's a good thing to start out with. That means that your steps per millimeter are probably at least close enough to go a little bit farther distance. Okay, so if you have the room to go, then maybe go up to 0.1. Okay, and then again we're going to move it to the right, and you can see it will go right. You move it to the left, and you can see it goes left. Okay, so that's X plus is to the right, X minus is to the left. Okay, Y plus will be back. Okay, and there again it's moving back. Y minus should move forward. Okay, so after you verify that the directions are correct, we can move on to the next step. But let's say that they're not. Let's say if things are moving in the wrong position. or the wrong direction. First thing you want to do is come down to the command line. Okay, so we'll click down here and we'll type in $$ and hit enter. What that's going to do is it's going to scroll all your durable settings so you can see what everything is. What we're looking for, you can scroll back up, is the direction port invert mask. Okay, we're looking for $ 3. So my $ 3 is 7. So if we go over to my website, okay, and we can go over to the CNC for Newbie assembly page or the Demon controller setup page. I have to add this yet to the full Demon controller page. It's getting there. There's a couple of calibration things on there right now. I'll finish that another time. If we go all the way down to the bottom, you can see this part right here. Stepper motor's moving in the wrong direction. Okay, it says the instructions right here, but I'll just run through what we're doing. So the first thing we do is we look over here. Let me see, my $ 3 is a number 7. So we're going to come over here and we're going to put this to 7. Now let's say my X was correct. So when I went left, it moved left. Let's say the Y was backwards though. Okay, so when I told it to go back, it actually went front. And the Z we haven't gotten to, but let's pretend we did. And the Z movement down went down. So what this is saying is my current setting is 7, and the suggested setting, or what it should be actually, is a 5 to reverse the Y. Okay, so what we do is we'd go over here and we'd type in $ 3, come on, equals, and then the new setting, which was a 5. Now I'm not going to do this because mine's correct, but you do that and that will change the direction of it. And then we'll scroll through. You can check it by hitting $ again and enter, and the new number should be here. Then we'll go ahead and you test it again, and assuming everything is correct, we'll move on to the next step. So the next step is stepper calibration. Now, whether or not you use CNC for Newbies actual numbers that they have listed on their website or mine, you should still always calibrate each axis, because every screw drive can be a little different. Every stepper motor can be a little different. You know, there's variations in play here that can cause things to be not quite what the math would tell you right away. Okay, so what we have here is I have a very pointy V-bit. Okay, and then I also have a ruler here, a long ruler with not only inches on one side but millimeters. It's going to be way easier to calibrate the steps per millimeter using a metric ruler. Okay, so the first test, though, if you're working in inches, is just send it an inch, and hopefully once now that we have it going in the right direction, hopefully when you move it an inch, it goes an inch or close to it. If it doesn't go an inch, if it goes like 2 inches, if it goes 1.5 inches, 1.25 inches, if it's very obviously off, you're going to want to do your steps per millimeter calibration with a very small increment to start with. Get it close, and then we can go big. Okay, so let's do that. So what I'll do is I'm going to move down to the metric part. Okay, and I'll get my bit over to the left, And the ruler isn't held down or anything like that, so we can just move this. Okay. And we'll get it lined up so that the V-bit is right on the edge. Okay. Let's see if I can get it to focus. Okay, so in person you can see it's pretty much there. Okay, we're at 0. What we're going to do to start with is let's send it 100 millimeters. Okay, so we'll send it 100 millimeters to start with. So we can go over here. I'm going to switch this to millimeters. I can go here and switch this to 100. Okay, and we're going to just jog right 100 millimeters. Now it should have ended up right on that 100 mark. Okay, trying to get this to focus for you. Okay, so here we are right on the 100 mark. Mine is on because I've calibrated it. Okay, let's say yours is at 101 or 102. It's off. Okay, what you do is we're going to go back over to my website, and right above the one we just did is a steps per millimeter calibration or calculator right here. Right here is a great video by the guy who taught me a lot. Manhattan Wood Projects. The guy is awesome. He's a really nice guy. I have not seen anything new from him in a long time, so I hope he's okay. I hope everything is good, but I have not seen new stuff from him in a while. But he has some great X-Carve or stepper or calibration videos for CNC machines. All these machines work the same principles. 3-axis movements. If you're using a gerbil controller, the calibration procedures are all the same. Your numbers are just going to be different. Okay, so what we do is we look for our current steps per millimeter. So I'm on the x-axis right now, and we go through and we go again dollar sign, and we check out the x steps per millimeter right here. Okay, mine right now is 26.643. So we'd go up here and we'd say 26.643. Okay, and the distance I sent was 100. Okay, now the distance it went for me obviously was 100, but let's say it was 101. Okay, it was off a little. So right now my current steps per millimeter is 26.643. The new steps per millimeter, what it should be, is 26.379. So what I would do is I'd come over here and I'd say $100 equals, and then the new number, and enter. When you do that, when you change your steps per millimeter, some things are going to change. Sometimes, because your machine setting and machine location was in a certain spot, okay, the work position or the machine position, and because you changed the steps per millimeter, it wants to go back to this position. Okay, so when you scroll, when you hit the scroll button, geez, my zoom is spazzing out there. When you scroll, or when you move it, jog it to another position, what's going to happen is it'll try to recalibrate itself or change the position of itself to make up for the steps per millimeter change. So what you're going to want to do again is drop your jog distance something small, okay, like 1 millimeter or whatever, 0.1 inches, something, and you're going to jog it left to right and let it kind of recalibrate itself. Another thing you could do, since we have the homing off is you could close the connection and reopen it. Okay. Then when you do that, wherever the spindle is 0. It's going to be machine 0. So after you do it a small distance, then you'd go back, put your pointer back here on the left. So I'm going to go 100 millimeters back to the left for myself. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we got to know the safest distance we can send it, but the longest. Okay, the farther you go in one jog, the more accurate your machine's going to be. Okay, and it has to do with tolerances stacking up. Okay, let's say you were off, 1 millimeter here at 100 inches. That's or 100 millimeters. That's all the further distance you go. Let's say with the naked eye you could maybe see a half a millimeter, maybe not. So if you were a half a millimeter off at 100 inches, you're going to be a whole millimeter off at 200 millimeters. Okay, yeah, sorry, 100 millimeters, you'd be a half a millimeter off. 200, you're going to be a whole millimeter off. By the time you get over here, you're going to be all sorts of off. Okay, so what we're going to want to do is we want to be the closest to dead on by eye within a millimeter. Okay, at the farthest distance we can safely send it. For me here, I'm going to go to 600. Okay, so again, we'd line up our pointy bit here right at the 0 mark, and we'd go 600, and I'm going to send it to the right 600, and it should stop on 600. Okay, so there we have it. If you need to calibrate it, every once in a while, especially with belts, you might need to calibrate it more than screws. But it's a good thing to check every once in a while, and maybe every once in a while is only about 6 months, But that's what you're going to want to do. So you do that for the X, and then you do it for the Y axis. And for the Z, what I do, now this one is kind of long, but I will clamp this thing to whatever I can, however I can, okay, and then I will mock up a little wire pointer. Now I have a different mount than yours, but if you wrap a wire around your spindle nice and tight and have it stick out like a pointer, okay, you can start at a certain point, at a known point, and then do your calibration up and down. Again, doing small first, and then bigger as you go. So that there, to me, are the first calibration procedures I do on a CNC machine when building a new one, or starting yours up for the first time. Okay, so direction. First, check the direction of travel. Then calibrate your steps per millimeter to make sure everything is close. After that, you should be good to do your first carves. So that's it. Thanks, guys. Once again, designsbyphil.com. Okay, and you go to the Demon Shield page, and right there you have all sorts of different calibration setups and tips for the CNC for Newbie machine and the Demon controller itself. Alright, thanks for watching, guys.